So hi there and welcome to my 10.1.7 Arms Warrior Guide. Fight with honor and valor so you can one day embrace the home of Valhalla. Let's get into it. The stat you want to look for on an Arms Warrior is main stat as always. The secondary stats you want to look for are crit, which is roughly equal to haste, followed by mastery and versatility. Now mastery has a special place since basically your main single target damage ability and your Colossus Smash and Bladestorm will inflict a bleed that increases the amount of damage an enemy takes. Now let's go over the talent. As always, I will have a link down below in the description for all the talent builds that I will be showcasing. In the class talent tree, you will always start up with defensive stance and battle stance. Do remember to check if you are in the correct stance. The amount of warriors I've seen running around in defensive stance while doing lower end keys and simply like normal and heroic rates is heartbreaking. Defensive stance is nice defensiveness, 10% passive damage reduction, all great. However, it also reduces the amount of damage you deal by 10%. I suggest always having both stances keybound so that you can easily swap between them so that you can use defensive stance as a defensive cooldown. So you want to pick up War Machine to generate more rage. Furious Blow is just a passive auto attack speed increase which in turn generates more rage. We also want to pick up Sidearm simply because it's a passive damage increase and also it's passive cleave. We also pick up Barbaric Training, making sure that Slam and Whirlwind deals more damage. However, more importantly, it costs more rage. We also pick up Thunderclap and then we pick up Blood and Thunder. This makes Thunderclap cost more rage, which is nice. It also deals more damage, and if we have Rend talented, Thunderclap will affect 5 nearby enemies with Rend. We also pick up Frothing Berserker, making so that Mortal Strike and Cleave has a 20% chance to immediately refund 20% of the rage spent. In the bottom rows, we are picking up Cruel Strikes for a passive crit chance increase and crit damage of Execute. We pick up Two-Handed Weapon Specialization because this is just flat 5% more damage. We also pick up Wild Strikes for more haste and so that our auto attack crits increase our auto attack speed for 10 seconds. Then we pick up Thunder's Roar. This is just a cooldown that does a decent amount of damage and actually a quite substantial bleed. We then pick up Thunderous Words, increasing the duration of the bleed and increase the damage of all our bleed effects for 15%. Remember, our mastery is also a bleed. Then we pick up Armor to the Teeth, turning some of our armor into strength. Then we pick up our main cooldown, which is Avatar, giving us 20% increased damage. And then lastly, we pick up Warlord's Torment, making it so that whenever we use Colossus Smash or our cooldown Avatar, we also gain Fury's cooldown, which is guaranteed crits. Defensively, Arms Warrior is in a great position. Not only do you bring the ever valuable Rallying Cry, which is basically mandatory, at least one in every raid group, but it's also very nice in dungeons. You then pick up Intervene, which can be used as a defensive, however, it will mostly be used as mobility. And then we have Leeching Strikes, giving us 5% leech. We also pick up Impending Victory, replacing our Victory Rush, so it's an on-demand 30% heal. We also pick up Spell Reflection. We also pick up Heroic Leap as a mobility option, an amazing ability which we then further improve with Bounding Stride. We also pick up Double Time, increasing the number of charges we have and reducing the cooldown of charge. We then pick up Pain and Gain, making it so that we heal once every 10 seconds for a little bit whenever we take damage. Lastly, Reinforced Plates, which just passively increases our armor. Going over the spec tree for single target, we will always pick up Mortal Strike, Overpower, and Martial Prowess. This is our core part of arms. We also pick up Improved Execute, so Execute no longer has a cooldown and refunds some of the rage if the target survives. We then pick up a defensive, Die by the Sword, giving us 30% damage reduction. On top of this, we then pick up Ignore Pain, which we are using currently as part of our main rotation. However, Blizzard has stated that for the next patch, they are going to remove Ignore Pain's benefit for our DPS. And then we pick up Colossus Smash, making it so that we deal 30% more damage to the target with this debuff on it. We then go into Anger Management, making it so that we reduce the cooldown of Colossus Smash by 1 second per 20 rage we spent. We also pick up Blunt Instrument and Single Target, increasing the duration of Colossus Smash as well as Test of Might, so that after Colossus Smash we gain 1% strength per 10 rage we've spent during Colossus Smash. We also pick up Sudden Death, gaining us access to execute outside of execute range and deal max damage. Pick up Impale for a passive 10% crit damage increase, and we pick up Strength of Arms, increasing the crit chance of overpower, dealing 10% more crit damage on overpower, and when used in execute it generates rage. We then pick up Storm of Swords so that Whirlwind costs more rage but has a cooldown and deals a ton more damage. We pick up Critical Thinking, 2% passive crit chance increase, and execute immediately refunds 10% of rage spent. We pick up Sharpened Blades, Mortal Strike, Cleave, and Execute. Crit damage is increased by 10%, and your execute has a 5% increased chance to crit. Then we pick up Juggernaut, making it so execute increases the damage of execute by 3% for 12 seconds, stacking 15 times. We pick up Executioner's Precision, making it so execute increases the damage our next Mortal Strike does by 35%, stacking 2 times. We also pick up Tactician, making it so we have a 2.5% chance per rage spent on abilities to reset the remaining cooldown on Overpower. We of course pick up Rend, we then pick up Dreadnought, making it so we have 2 charges of Overpower, and making it so Overpower does damage in a line. Then we pick up Deft Experience, increasing our mastery by 2% and increasing Tactician's chance to trigger by an additional 1.2%. Then we pick up Bloodletting, making it so Deep Wounds, Rend, and Thunderous Roar bleed effects last 6 seconds longer and have a 5% increased crit chance. Also, this makes it so that our Mortal Strikes inflicts Rend on targets in execute range. We also pick up Battle Lord, making it so Overpower deals more damage and give it a chance to reset the cooldown of Mortal Strike and Cleave. Lastly, we pick up Fatality, which is how Arms does its damage in single target, making it so Mortal Strikes against enemies above 30% HP have a high chance to apply Fatal Mark. When your enemy falls below 30%, our next execute inflicts an additional X amount of damage per stack. Fatality, alongside Juggernaut, makes it so Arms Warriors currently have one of the strongest, if not the strongest execute in this game. For the Mythic Plus playstyle, there are a few changes you're going to make. First off is you're going to go into Warbreaker, basically making Colossus Smash be an AoE, and we pick up In for the Kill as the haste will be more beneficial. We also remove Fatality and Juggernaut to pick up Blade Storm as well as Hurricane. We also change Warlord's Torment to Blade Master's Torment so that whenever we use Avatar or Blade Storm, we cast the other one at reduced effectiveness. Now with the Aberrus tier set bonus, you will be using improved Sweeping Strikes, making our Sweeping Strikes last for 21 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. If you do not have the Aberrus tier set bonus, you would simply go into reducing the cooldown of Cleave, as that will be then your main ability. So what's the core of an Arms Warrior? Well, basically it's using as many Mortal Strikes as you can. However, thanks to our talent making Overpower giving us more damage to our Mortal Strike, we'll then be focused on getting Overpower to buff our Mortal Strikes. However, we will never delay Mortal Strike in order to utilize Overpower. Outside of this, we want to keep up Rend and then try to spend as much rage as possible to reduce the cooldown of Colossus Smash to have it up as often as possible. Now, Thunderous Roar you want to use after your Colossus Smash has ended and you gain the strength buff. You want to use Execute, however, in our execute range, our priority actually changes completely. You want to be focusing on Execute and then using Mortal Strikes whenever we have 2 stacks of Executioner's Precision. Now, if we ever need more rage during Execute, that's when we use Overpower. As you might remember, Overpower had this talent Strength of Arms, making it so that when we use Overpower and Execute, we generate rage. So this actually becomes our main priority. So for your single target priority, you want to always have Rend up and Colossus Smash on cooldown. Then you want Mortal Strike on cooldown and Thunderous Roar after you've used Colossus Smash and the debuff has fallen off. Then you want to be using Execute if you have deep proc or are in execute range. Outside of that Execute, you want to make sure that you don't have 2 charges of Overpower, so just use 1. And then you actually want to use Ignore Pain to drop your Rage. It's the same with your Whirlwind. You will be using this to dump Rage, and Thunderclap to dump Rage. All of these are excellent Rage dumps, and you should be focusing on those. Now, currently, sadly, Slam is not worth using pretty much ever. Ignore Pain is always your #1 priority as a rage dump, simply because it's off the global cooldown. The opener is pretty much your single target priority list. You basically follow the same steps, simply just to pump out as many mortal strikes as you can. So you want to charge in, get rend up, then Avatar Colossus Smash, and then Mortal Strike. Get your overpowers out, Mortal Strike, ignore pain. Now we got an execute, that's nice. Mortal Strike, ignore pain, overpower, another Mortal Strike. Thunderous Roar now that we've lost the Colossus Smash. And then we go straight back into our base rotation of getting overpowers out to buff our Mortal Strikes. As you can see, I have Colossus Smash back again, so now we just go in it again and get as many Mortal Strikes in as we can, making sure we never sit on 2 charges of overpower, and then spamming Mortal Strike. And that's actually your entire single target rotation. You want to just apply Thunderclap to reset overpower, Storm of Swords or Whirlwind for overpower, Ignore Pain for overpower, and then of course using this execute whenever we can. Now I mentioned that the execute range is slightly different. The cooldown uses will be the same. Avatar alongside your Colossus Smash, Thunderous Roar after Colossus Smash is done, and then Ignore Pain to avoid overcapping on Rage, then execute twice, overpower for generating Rage if you're below 40, which I am now, and then Mortal Strike. And that's actually our execute. Now luckily, in 2 Target Cleave situations like Forgotten Experiments, we could actually just use our sweeping strikes to give ourselves 15 seconds to simply cleave off our main target. This includes all damage we deal with execute, overpowers, Mortal Strikes, you name it. Now, let's talk about the AoE rotation. It's honestly quite similar to our base single target rotation, however, we just swap over a few things. See, in single target, we can just use Rend to apply this throughout the encounter. However, in AoE, we will replace this with Thunderclap, because Thunderclap applies Rend to 5 targets. Warbreaker makes our Colossus Smash AoE, so we're basically pushing the same buttons, and then we want to utilize Blade Storm inside our Warbreaker window. Then we want to use Sweeping Strikes, which last for 21 seconds, and then continue onwards with our single target for the majority of the rotation. Using Whirlwind now has higher priority over Ignore Pain, simply because it does a decent chunk of AoE damage. Now we got Colossus Smash, so let's do another Blade Storm, and now we have Sweeping Strikes back again, making it so that we can cleave onto 2 targets at the very least. And then once again, if we're in execute range, cleaving with execute is a huge damage increase in AoE and Mythic Plus encounters. Now, something you will have to learn as an arms warrior in AoE is that you want to tap target to spread deep wounds to as many people as you can while continuously just pummeling away. Now, these target dummies are a bit far apart, so you'll have to bear with me. That is why we pick up Cleave, so that in case you ever drop Mortal Strike or Deep Wounds from any target in AoE, you can use Cleave as an AoE application of Deep Wounds. This doesn't have a high priority, as you should be focusing on using Mortal Strike with Sweeping Strikes up. However, Cleave can be nice in certain situations. That was actually all I had to say about Arms Warrior. It's my favorite DPS warrior. I love playing Arms. It's so much fun. You can do huge bursts. You got your ginormous execute, and that feels great whenever you just slam someone and just keep hammering away with executes. Anyways, hopefully you'll subscribe and I'll see you in the next one, which will be Fury. But until then, bye!